Sorry about that.
Oh, it's no problem. I absolutely love your background. Can you talk about that?
Of course. So this is the first house I ever bought. And so when I moved in, I wanted to get something that was kind of different and like unique.
Yeah.
I mean, I like art. I'm just not like an art aficionado or whatever. So this is a guy in Portland who is a woodworker, does these like the state of Oregon, and it's like a basketball hoop. And I have a couple of them around my house, but I wanted to do something bigger, like a piece, and I wanted it to be unique to me. So this is the United States, and every NBA city has a little thing. And then I got a shot glass from every NBA city when I did travel with the team, and it's a little ledge, and so it's all of them are there, all 30.
I love it. You're giving me so many ideas.
It's just kind of cool. What's funny is I would I have big plans. Like when I travel, I'm going to go to every, find the cutest one. And then I just end up usually buying them from the Rite Aid across from the hotel, but whatever, it's fine.
You're cheaper there.
Yeah, they are cheaper there.
Is that San Antonio? That's not.
That one, yeah. So some of them, I have a 5-year-old. So some of them have fallen off and broken. This one is San Antonio, and Houston and Dallas are the ones that went by the wayside. This one, you'll like this one. Hold on, this is my favorite one. This one was designed by me. It's Oklahoma City, and I don't know if you can see, but I had "bad shot" written on it. It's called Dame's 3 bad shot. So, okay, that's what that is.
Okay. Excuse my nervousness. I am here with Brooke Olzendam, the Portland Trail Blazers courtside reporter. Tell everyone, hey.
Hey, what's up? That's me. How's everybody doing?
We're a small platform, Back Sports page, but we promise we are getting there, and we're getting bigger, and hell, we got you. So
oh, that's so kind of you to say. No, it's awesome. I love doing stuff like this, and you're on your grind. All you guys are. I think it's fantastic.
I will say the pandemic has been completely, I wouldn't say a blessing, obviously, with everything, but it has definitely opened the doors for us to get in. There's sometimes I couldn't get into all the Celtics games. There were many press conferences that I could go to, but not really. Some I could, some I couldn't. And now I'm going to all of them, and, to courtside reporters across the world, or across the country. So I'm really excited about that. So can you tell me about yourself and how you started your journey as a sportscaster?
Sure. So I grew up, basketball in particular was my world. My dad was a high school boys basketball coach in the state of Washington my whole life. I mean, he just retired. Well, he retired a few years ago, but 35 years. I went into the Washington State Coaches Hall of Fame. So I always like to brag about that because I loved going to his games. It was my favorite thing growing up. I went to all of them. I went to practices. I was just a gym rat. And so that basketball was life growing up. And then I played, obviously. So I also play volleyball. So just sports in general was just kind of like my focus in life. And my dad and I, we would watch NBA games together. That was our thing. So, my girlfriends who had, I don't know, singers, actors in their room posters. I had, like David Robinson, Akeem Olajuwon, Charles Barkley, things like that. Gary Payton. I mean, I had like all of them. Cliff Robinson. And so I was just that was my thing. So I didn't actually go into college knowing that I wanted to be a sports reporter. I knew I wanted to do something in sports, but I wasn't exactly sure what that was. So my freshman year, I went to Washington State, which is a fantastic communication school, Murrow School of Communications. It was great. They really threw you in the fire and kind of, you did everything. You edited, you produced, you shot, you had to do it all to kind of figure out which area you wanted to do. So let me backtrack a little bit. So freshman year, I took everything possible. I took economics, bad move. That didn't last. But I realized that, I'm a social person in general. I like to talk. I like to communicate. I've come to now realize I've been interviewing people my whole life, which is probably quite annoying, but when I meet people, I just want to know all about them. So it was kind of a natural progression. when I started taking communications classes and broadcasting classes, because I thought, well, this might work, and like I said, we did everything. I would do a newscast. I would do the weather one night. I would produce. And my first stint covering a men's basketball game, and I did highlights that night live on our news. Yeah, Cable 8 News is, a student-run channel, but I loved Cable 8 was fantastic. You could do your own shows. You could produce your own shows. It was just, like I said, a perfect scenario for someone in college trying to figure out what they want to do. So the first time I did my sports broadcast, it just clicked, right? I'm like, I knew what I was talking about, to be quite honest. I knew what I was talking about. I enjoyed what I was talking about. So it was right there at that moment. I said, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is fun. I don't want to say comes easy. That's not the right term, but it felt natural. So as soon as I graduated from college, there's kind of two routes you can take, really. You either go to a very small market and you do everything. You shoot, you produce, you pretty much, you're a one-man band. And then you, every couple of years, try to move up in the market. I kind of took a risk and went to a large market, but not on air. And I started at the bottom doing grunt work in hopes that maybe I could get a shot. And what that looked like was editing, getting coffee, logging games, writing shot sheets for the actual talent, and then going out when I wasn't working and shooting, for lack of a better term, fake stand-ups, fake stories. Not fake, but just they weren't meant for air. They were meant for my reel. And I kept taking them to my executive producer and saying, can you look at this? Can you give me some feedback? And that went on for a couple of years. And I mean, I was waitressing or serving at lunches before I'd go into work because you had to pay the rent. And so it was 2 years. And finally, my executive producer was like, fine. I think he was just tired of me bothering him for years and years. So he put me on University of Washington volleyball. And I'll never forget, that was my first live event. And I was sidelined for that. And they were in the Final Four. It was fantastic. Did a decent enough job that led me to University of Washington football and basketball sideline. Then a Huskies magazine show that led to at the time, Pac-10 magazine show called Running with the Pack, which was amazing. I got to travel to every Pac-10 school and do a half-hour show on whatever we chose to. It could be, well, like when we went to Arizona State, I interviewed James Harden when he was there, Jeff Pendergraph, but then it could be Stanford swimming, it could be anything. And so we really wanted to showcase men and women and different sorts of maybe not mainstream sports all the time. So that was awesome. And then it led me to my first NBA gig with the Indiana Pacers for 3 years. And now I'm here with the Trailblazers going on, year 7, well, eight total, but year 6 with the team. So that's the short version of that story.
That's honestly amazing. With your dad having so many connections, did you, when you were doing your fake stories, did you have anyone that you knew previously, or was it just random people off the street?
So interestingly enough, my parents were both in education. So my dad was a coach and also a PE teacher, and my mom went on to she was a teacher and then went on to be a principal and a professor. So I was the rogue in the family that did not go into education. So with all the wealth of knowledge in terms of the game of basketball my dad provided me, there were really no connections for me in terms of on-air situations. Like they even said, they're like, we wish we could help you, but we don't know anything about, sports TV, but good luck. If anyone can do it, you can. So what I did do, I had a friend who had the connection I didn't even tell you where I first went. It was Fox Sports Northwest, which is now Root Sports. So Angie Mentink is her name. She's been there for a very long time. She ended up kind of somewhat being my mentor. I would say definitely ended up being my mentor. She played softball at the University of Washington, just a legend. And she really helped me she kind of guided me through it. So when I would go do these fake stories, it would be essentially, I would tag along with her, or I'd tag along with Brad Adam, who covers the Mariners, or someone, at Seahawks practice or University of Washington. And then I'd watch them do their real for air stand up. And then I'd kind of say, the camera guys and camera women were so kind as to, give me their time, which is another thing I would say to young people going, that want to do this. Definitely feel like you can ask for help or not, ask for assistance. people want to help, people want to help people that really want to succeed and are willing to put in the hard work. People that have already established themselves, they really do want to help. It's really a pay it forward kind of thing. So whoever was shooting Angie or Brad, I'd say, would you mind shooting a stand-up for me? And then as soon as they were done, I would just kind of swoop in, grab the mic, and do my own version of that stand-up. And then I would, ask someone if I could, as an assistant coach, if I could do a quick interview. Again, and they knew, I'm like, this isn't going on air. This is just for my reel. They'd say, no problem, So people were super helpful, willing to assist. And so that was really how I put together my reel that I would take to my EP, who would look at it, give me some critique. Then I'd go back out in the field and start all over. And then one night I really wanted to do something in studio, but that's asking literally 10 people to give you an extra 15 minutes of their life. And they're already there till 11 o'clock at night because it's after a Mariners game. But a friend of mine that I worked with said, ask them, bake cookies, do something, just everyone, they want to help you. So I mustered up I guess I felt a little brave one night, and I said, would you guys mind tomorrow night after the Mariners games, just shooting one segment, a segment with me on the desk? And I would be so grateful. And they were all happy to do it. So I did bring cookies, by the way. And so then I put that on my reel. And so it really is just, asking for assistance. People are willing to help. And then just really getting back out there and taking that critique and, using it and accepting it and feeling it and then putting it into action.
How was that critique? Was it harsh, or was it, you did well, but were they nice?
Oh yeah, no, he was. Oh yeah, they were very nice. But I liked nice, but I also like straightforward. I don't want, they're doing me a disservice if they don't tell me exactly what they think, and if they're just trying to not hurt my feelings, I won't get any better. So I will say, in this business, it's better to have a tough skin for a lot of reasons. For that reason, because your bosses, your EPs will give you feedback, and as they should. I mean, I love feedback, because that's really the only way you can get better. I'll say feedback from others that you trust and you value their opinion, and your peers, and also watching stuff back, watching your work back. I do that all the time. Last night after the game, I came back and watched, not the entire game, but I watched our pregame show, because I'm hosting a pre and post in half this season also on top of Sideline. So I watched that because this is my first full year of doing that. So I like going back and watching it and seeing, I could have asked Michael that in a different way, or I could have taken it this way. It's some people just absolutely hate going back and watching themselves. It's not my favorite thing, but it's a great way to get better.
I'm that person that hates. I'm going to cringe so hard when I go back and watch this. I know that mentors, they want to help, and there are people in this industry that really want to help. What else is your advice to women like me who want to be in this industry and who are trying? What other advice would you give?
Absolutely. So like I said, I had a mentor in Angie at Fox Sports, now Root. And I always promised myself, and she had a conversation with me about it too, that, pay it forward. So I really, I do that as much as I can. I can't have a shadow every home game, just because that you have to keep your focus. But I will often, I would say maybe once or twice a month, have a shadow at work. And so that's me paying it forward and kind of letting, and it's not always women. I've had a man too, or a young man who was great. I think he's actually doing some local stuff now, but reaching out and trying to find a mentor, I think, is very important for people that are coming up in this business, because not only to get feedback, but it's a smaller world than you might think. And I always joke about this. There could be someone that's your runner. Like, let's say I'm doing Sideline in Boston, and I have not an assistant, but sometimes they'll give the Sideline their own stage manager, for lack of a better term. And I know their names, I know their families, I get to know them so well, because I'm that kind of person anyways. And their job is to help me and to make me look as good as possible on TV. So it just makes sense, but often things like this can happen where you had an assistant or stage manager 5 years ago, and then you walk into like a different Fox Sports, and that person's now an executive producer hiring talent. It's just a small world. So in my opinion, and I think this is the way to live your life in general, but be kind to everyone you work with, especially those that are there to help you specifically, people that work behind the camera, people who are editing your features, putting their heart and soul into it. We have an amazing editing crew. And there was this one feature that I did on Yusuf Nurkic after his injury. He broke his leg and was out. It was a very, very serious injury. And he was on his way back. And so we did this big feature, sit down with him about his return. And we sent, I had some notes and I sent it, they sent it to editing. And when it was done and they put it on the website and we did a feature on our broadcast, it was so beautifully done that I was like so moved. I mean, I couldn't believe how well it was edited. So I sought out who it was because we have a group of them. And I bought him a bottle of his favorite wine or whatever, because it's just like, you got to thank the people around you that are assisting you. So, but to your question, try to find someone that can be a mentor to you. I think that's huge. And also, if you have someone like that, or you reach out and you ask for some critique, I have people send me their reels all the time, and I'll just send back, a quick paragraph, like what you did here. Maybe, think about this, maybe think about this. And it's really important that I say this too, to send a thank you note, send a thank you email, follow up, because there are a lot of people that do what I do or have pretty busy lives. And when you take some time to pay it forward, just make sure you're keeping those connections. And so a thank you note, and then follow up, say, hey, I'm still trying to, land my first gig. I'm just wondering if you hear anything, let me know. And it's all about connections. Cause like I said, it's a smaller world than you think, and you'll run into the same people throughout your career. So be kind to everyone, as you should in general, but it's definitely important for this industry because it's small, and keep those connections, keep the connections, and try to find a mentor.
Besides who you already said, who were the other connections that you always ran into and have always helped you?
So a perfect example is my boss now, Jeff Curtin. He's the head of communication, director of broadcasting, but he's also our director in the truck. He wears two hats. So I've known him for a very long time. I did some freelance work at NBC Sports Northwest after, a decade ago. And he essentially, he was a director, and I didn't necessarily work directly with him, but we were around each other and we became friends. And he was someone that I kept in touch with. I mean, I've tried to keep in touch with everyone I've worked with at some point, but he's someone I kept in touch with, and we'd see each other when the Blazers would come to Indiana and we would play each other. Jeff Curry, how you doing? We just kept in touch, texts here and there. Well, come full circle, he approached me and asked if I had, ever considered doing this for the Blazers. I'm like, absolutely. And he hired me, 10 years later. So there's a perfect example of having a great connection. And we're friends first, so that's helpful, but keeping a connection, because if it wasn't for that relationship, I don't know. It would have been a much more difficult journey to get to where I'm at here in Portland if I didn't have that connection with Jeff.
Absolutely. Did you want to go to Portland for a reason, or were you looking to get out of Indiana? I'm from the Midwest, I understand.
No, it wasn't getting out of Indiana. It was coming back home. So I am from the state of Washington. I'm from Spokane, and excuse me, I'm from Spokane. So my mom is there. My dad is in Seattle. My best friend's in Boise. It's just the Northwest is home for me. So no, the people in Indiana were lovely. And it was really, that's where I got my first NBA action. So I learned so much in that job. But for me, it was about coming back home to close. I really missed my family. I felt, it was not a quick flight. It was not an easy, the journey from Spokane to Indiana was not the easiest for people to come visit. So, they did, but it was more so, okay, I've learned so much. I'm so appreciative of these 3 years with the Pacers. The coaching staff, the organization was great, but I just really wanted to get back home. So that was the perfect situation. Portland's the closest NBA city to my family. And funny you should ask, my mom and her husband just bought a condo about 10 minutes away from me for part of the year. So it's working out. Yeah.
And I know you said that you had a child.
Mm-hmm.
So that must be amazing for your daughter or your son.
Son, Theo, he's 5.
It must be amazing for him.
He's funny. When he was like 3, he thought it was cool when mommy's on TV. I have a lot of pictures of him, kissing the TV or, hugging the TV. As he gets older, it's funny. He's whatever. He's like, whatever. He's not impressed anymore. I don't think he fully understands, like every once in a while, he will be at the grocery store and someone will be like, because the Blazers are huge in this city, right? Everyone watches the Blazers. So it's always at the grocery store, but someone will come up and ask for a picture or something. And he's 5. He rolls his eyes. He's like, come on, mom. Like, can't you think I'm cool a little bit? No? All right, fine.
I wonder if you think that everyone's mom is like that.
That's a good point. Yeah. I don't chalk too much. I'm just going to let it, be natural for him. And if he does at some point think what mom does is cool, great. If it's just whatever, that's fine too. But it's just so funny because he thinks it's cool when his friends think it's cool, but then when it's just me and him, it's not that cool anymore.
Doesn't that happen around 13 or something? Not 5.
I know. He's an old soul. We'll see. But I'll say this, coming to games is fun. Just seeing him back, obviously not this season, but last year when my mom would take him to games and come down on the floor, and we have a bunch of pictures down there. So I'll keep those forever. And maybe when he's older, he'll look back and say that was neat.
I'm pretty sure he will.
I hope so.
You've definitely had longevity in this space, and you are going to keep going, and you're still you're accelerating every year. What was the biggest adversity in your career?
Ooh, that's a good question. Biggest adversity. Well, in my career, let's say, I'll say this, that I want to give a lot of credit to the women that started this all, that were for lack of a better term, trailblazers in this industry. I mean, Doris Burke is my heroine. I know she's the most wonderful human on this earth. And she's one of those people that you go up to and she will take time out. I mean, she's getting ready for, a nationally televised broadcast. She'll take as long as you want to talk, to have a chat, to ask her questions, get her opinion, just catch up, and she's just lovely. So, if you asked her that question, she'd probably have a laundry list. I would say that for me, I've been pretty lucky that, that so many women came before me and that I've really had so much support. I've had a few instances where, maybe I have felt like perhaps my opinion wasn't valued, not in this position, much longer ago than this position I'm in now. My opinion is so valued. I feel so supported. The crew that I work with is mostly male, but my voice is just as heard as our analyst, our play-by-play, anybody. So right now, I just feel so blessed that we're in this place where I feel so valued. But there have been instances. I remember my first when I first started getting into this, when I was at Fox Sports Northwest, and I was doing going out on shoots and just putting together my reel. I had some instances where I had a producer that, I was like 21 at this point, and he wanted an interview with a player and they couldn't get it figured out. And I found out later, like he gave that player my phone number in exchange for an interview. And at that time I was so young and I didn't have a voice yet. And I was upset, but I didn't want to go to anyone about that. Or I didn't want to, even approach him about it. Obviously that is unacceptable. And, if I could go back, I would have handled that situation differently. But that, like I said, that was so long ago. And I've just felt like I felt very lucky that my journey has been less rocky than those, that started it along much earlier than I did. But there's been some adversity, little things along the way, but for the most part, I've really been quite lucky. I'm really grateful for that.
That's amazing. And also at 21, I can't speak for you, but my emotional intelligence just wasn't there.
No, I would agree.
So it's probably best that, although the person definitely should know what he did was wrong, but I know for me, if I was in that situation, it wouldn't have been that great. No. But on to the fun stuff.
Okay.
So Syracuse is out. So I am in a bad space right now.
I'm sorry.
I'm going for UConn. What about you?
Well, so our Oregon schools, this is like the first time it's ever happened. Oregon State and Oregon men and Oregon State and Oregon women were both in the Sweet 16, which is fantastic. So obviously those are the schools in this state that, you're one or the other, but I get to, because I went to Washington State, I get to root for both, which is nice. So I would love it if one of those schools, made it, but I also from Spokane, and my mom got her doctorate from Gonzaga, and my best friend's husband played baseball at Gonzaga, and that's like the show in town in Spokane are the Zags, and Mark Few's been there forever and ever and ever. So I guess I have three horses in the race for that. I'm rooting for the Oregon women for sure. They're fun to watch. They're really fun to watch. I just watched them today, and so they won. So I guess I would say for the women, I go with Oregon, and for the men, Oregon State, or Gonzaga. It helps my chances of having a team I like win when I have three.
No, I think you got to pick one.
Okay, fine. The Zags. I guess I'll go with the Zags.
Gotcha. What else are you working on?
Well, this year is very different for me because I've been strictly it's not strictly, it's a great job and it's challenging, but I was sidelined for the first 5 years with the Trailblazers. And this season, now that it looks different, our play-by-play guy used to host, right? His name's Jordan Kent. He went to Oregon, played 3 sports, and he moved from hosting to the booth to do play-by-play this season. So I had filled in for him a couple times, like when his wife had a baby, and I had hosted in Indiana. So it's not something that was brand new to me, but that was added to my my job description this year. So I kind of have 2 jobs, which is, I feel very blessed because it's just an interesting time in this business. So to have 2, I feel very lucky. So that has been fun and challenging because I for the first, couple weeks, your brain is like, wait, I'm preparing for pregame. And then as soon as pregame's over, I got to remember, we're going to do my open. And then first quarter, it's just wearing a couple hats at the same time and making sure you're not focusing so much on one job that you're forgetting about this aspect of the other job. And I think we've got it down to a science now, but in terms of that's kind of my focus right now. We play so often now, with this, it is a shorter season, but I think we have 10 back-to-backs for the second half of this season. I know we do. So it's really, there's not a lot of time to be focusing on anything else at this moment. It's just work, but it's fun. I just love sports are the best. They're so much fun because it's like you don't know what's going to happen. You're not sure how the game's going to go. If there's a fun storyline that's going to come to fruition, like Carmelo Anthony has been moving up in the all-time scorers list this season, and he's done it a couple times, moved up, and the next time he moves up, he'll be in the top 10. So there's always there's something fun to look forward to, but there's always the unknown of how the game's going to go and in which direction. And we've had so many close games this year that it's been very entertaining. So just work right now, but trust me, I don't have much time for anything else.
And the last thing I want to talk about is your Brooke Hearts Your Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know that, there's a touching story behind that. How about you speak about that?
Yeah, for sure. So I got married to my husband, Andy Collins, who at the time was 27 years old, professional athlete, just epitome of perfect health. And 10 days after we got married, we had moved to Florida. I was going to take a job there, and he was down in the weight room and he was on the treadmill and he suffered a heart attack and he passed away shortly thereafter. So it was shocking to us all. I mean, we were devastated, but as much time has gone by now, I'm looking at it as how do I make this situation? How do I turn this into something that can be positive for someone else? And so this organization, the Trailblazers, they have been so supportive of me in general, but when I went to them with this idea last year, they were so great. Like, absolutely, we'll do, we'll make this exactly how you want it. We will do everything we can. And not to mention, they said they'd match up to $5,000 in donations. So that's just fantastic. So last year was our inaugural season and we raised more than our goal, and they matched the 5,000. And we raised money at the Heart Ball. Obviously this year the Heart Ball was virtual, so it looked different, but this season again, we broke right through our goal, and they matched 5,000 again. So last year was kind of more focused on AEDs and making sure those were in as many places as we could and make sure people knew how to use them. So on my site, there were some tutorials, things like that. And this year it's more about listening to your body. So Andy, like I said, an athlete, whenever he went running, he was just always so exhausted. Like he had to exert so much energy. And I just, I don't like running in general. So we all just chalked it up with, yeah, it's running, it's worse. But after, they figured out that he had a carotid artery, the doctors told us that when he would run, or he would be exerting 10 times the amount of energy that you or I would. And because he had so much pressure that, his heart and his arteries were working so hard just to keep it going. So now that we know that, part of my message to people this year was, if you feel like that might be you, or you have a friend or family member that you think, gosh, you know what, I feel like, my sister, really, whenever she's done with the workout or is running, she kind of, it just, something's not right. Maybe she's feeling more exhausted, or she's exerting more energy than I think she should. Just listening to your body and talking to your friends and family and making sure that they are too. That was kind of the goal, the message this year, on top of raising funds. And I'll tell you, I've had some amazing stories, people that have reached out to me after watching the video. We had a very lengthy video last year about this whole situation with Lamar, my analyst and very good friend. This year was more about just that, listening to your body. And one of my good girlfriends from college called me 2 weeks after we put it out on the website. And she said, you know what, I watched that and I started thinking about her sister, who runs a fitness studio, in great health, young. And she sent her the video and she said, just watch this and tell me if you feel like you can relate to this. So she did, she watched it and she said, you know what, I think I will go get checked. And she went and got checked, and she had to have emergency heart surgery like within weeks of going to get it checked. So that right there makes this worth it. That was exactly what I wanted, was to at least affect one person, maybe improve someone's life. And I've had so many people, that's the story that really gets me, but I've had so many people also reach out and say they did go get checked and they're just, they have to make some life changes. And so it's reached its goal in terms of donations, but it's really reached its goal for me in terms of reaching people and getting themselves checked if they think they should, and their friends or family. So that was the goal this year. But big ups to the Blazers for all their support, and the American Heart Association as well.
Absolutely. Personal story of my own. My father actually passed away of his 4th heart attack.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And what's so crazy is when he had his first heart attack, he knew nothing about his heart disease. He had no, thank God I got to spend 5 more years with him after that. But, I would have loved for him to have heard this information. And he was a guy who was going to keep eating his steaks and all that stuff. And I knew they were never going to change. But, if he would have had more exercise and things of that nature. And like I said, I got 5 extra years, which was amazing. But I think what you are doing is absolutely incredible. And I want you to keep. So you're my shero for 2 reasons now.
Wow. That's so sweet. I'm so sorry. I can't tell you how many stories like that I've heard of people who've reached out, and everyone is affected by heart disease or heart issues in some capacity. Someone, you have a family member, a friend, or it's really incredible that, everyone has a different story about it. And so thank you for saying that. That's the goal of mine, is to reach people. So I promise you I will continue to do it. And we're going to do it every year. I promise you. And continue to raise money for the Heart Association. I actually have a meeting with them coming up soon. I'm going to join. This is the plan, is join their board of directors. So we can even do more work that way too.
Thank you so much for this interview. It was my first time. I literally was a nervous wreck.
You did great.
Thank you for.
No, I mean it.